Welcome to episode 299 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak encouragement into the hearts of educators and get you informed and energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm offering a guide for spring cleaning in the classroom and guiding you to examine what you actually need in order to teach well. Visit truthforteachers.com for an easy-to-read, easy-to-share version of this podcast episode. You can elevate your career in early child development at Ericson Institute, a trusted and respected premier graduate school. Ericson's online master's in early childhood education provides the expertise to lead initiatives that shape young minds. Balancing your life, work, and studies is made easier with this fully online program, offering part-time or full-time study options. Join a community of nationally recognized faculty and learn alongside experienced practitioners. Apply today at ericson.edu. That's erikson.edu. I'm talking today about all that stuff that we accumulate in our classrooms. Now, I don't like to have a lot of knickknacks and clutter in my home, but I had a very different approach to accumulating stuff in my classroom. For my first 6 years as a teacher, I refused to throw anything out because I might need it one day. I remember washing every plastic container that came into my household, empty butter containers, detergent boxes, takeout packaging, and so on. I stuffed everything into this overflowing cabinet in my classroom just in case I needed it for organizing or for a project. This habit was built on a scarcity mindset. I didn't believe that I had the resources that I needed in order to teach well. And therefore, I had to hold on to anything and everything that crossed my path in order to be able to make do. It wasn't until that 6th year of teaching, when I moved from Washington, D.C. to Miami, that I realized I had accumulated enough random materials to literally fill an entire U-Haul truck. I literally rented a U-Haul just for my classroom materials and drove it from DC to Miami, taking it from one school to the next one. It was embarrassing how much stuff I had accumulated. And I had to be honest with myself at that point and realized I was only using about 1/5 of it on a regular basis. Once I had to pull up to that new school with a U-Haul and have everyone staring at me and wondering what is wrong with this person, I started getting really serious about my teacher hoarding tendencies. Too bad that didn't happen before the move, right? I could have saved myself a lot of trouble and expense. What I needed was to develop a mindset of abundance. And that's the thing with mindset shifts, right? Like you can't rush them or force them. You're going to arrive at this place when you're ready for it. And maybe today, as you're listening to this, is the time when you're ready for it. A mindset of abundance is the belief that you have everything you need and that more is always going to be available to you exactly when you need it. So I started practicing creating that mindset by telling myself, I like to streamline and simplify how my classroom runs. I don't keep things I don't really need. I could still teach well with a fraction of the materials I've accumulated. If there is something that I need later and I don't have, I trust that I'll be able to find it again, or borrow it, or be able to do without it just fine. The foundation of my classroom is my energy, enthusiasm, and know-how, not my stuff. I feel good about clearing away the things that drain my energy and enthusiasm by creating a cluttered, disorganized workspace. I can let go of things I don't need in order to make space for things I do. I want to share that mindset with you up front because if you are not in the mindset of abundance when you're doing your spring cleaning, it is going to be impossible to clear away the clutter and get rid of things. You'll start tensing up, you'll feel a little panicky at the thought of letting your things go. So practice having a mindset of abundance. And if you're not there, start slowly. Don't expect yourself to change the way you're thinking about this overnight. So let me give you an idea of 10 categories of things that you could consider reducing or simplifying in your classroom, things that you might be able to clear out or get rid of altogether. The first category is memos about upcoming meetings and events. A lot of times we keep these things, papers come into our inbox, and we just keep them just in case. But it's a lot more efficient if you just copy the dates into your calendar, into your plan book, whatever system works for you, and then throw the papers out. You don't have to keep every single upcoming meeting notice. Transfer it to a place that you're already looking and that you already use. Get rid of it. You might also be able to get rid of those empty containers if you were a pack rat like me. That goes double if they are used margarine tubs, Pringles cans, laundry detergent bottles, and so on. Don't try to justify holding on like I did by telling yourself, oh, I could use these for center materials, or I could use them to hold math manipulatives. Oh, this could be for office supplies. These are perfectly good containers. But if you're not saving them for a specific purpose, such as for this specific lesson or this specific date, get rid of them. They will take over your cabinets and make your whole classroom feel cluttered and disorganized. So don't feel like you have to hold on to those empty containers. Also take a look at your junk drawer. Don't lie to yourself and pretend that you'll clean that drawer out one day. You've always got a lot higher priorities, right? That's why it never gets done. So dump the whole thing in the trash. Seriously, do a quick scan, save anything of value, and then dump it. Immediately put the useful things in the empty drawer so it's full of stuff you love and actually use, and it doesn't become a magnet for junk again. When you're tempted to stuff something random in the drawer next time, you'll remember how difficult it was to throw everything out, and it'll make you think twice about letting junk accumulate again. If something doesn't have a useful place in your classroom, either create a place for it or throw it out. No random junk drawers. For spring cleaning, you can also think about getting rid of textbooks, worksheets, and lesson materials that were left in the file cabinet when you moved into the classroom. The previous teacher was not doing you a favor by leaving you with a cabinet stuffed haphazardly with random materials. This was a little white lie that they told themselves to avoid having to clean things out. And if you hate the textbooks that you have to use now, there's no way you're going to be using the previous class set from 1993. Anything more than 10 years old should get recycled immediately unless it's in new condition and clearly of exceptional, timeless quality. If you wouldn't want your students using it, why would you want other people's students to use it? The materials serve their purpose for many years, and it's okay to decide it's time to let them go. Now, I want to clarify, I'm not saying that anything more than 10 years old is not valuable anymore. I'm talking about the old leftover stuff, the stuff that you did not personally choose, the stuff that was already accumulating in your classroom that you've never used and you've never looked at. You can get rid of that, send it to the textbook depot that your school district has, whatever you need to do, but get it out of there. You don't need to pass it on to someone else if it's outdated and not useful. Also, consider getting rid of papers and info from prior class years. As a general rule, it's smart to keep your student portfolios and your documentation of parent communication for at least one full school year after the students have left your class. Maybe 2 years is good. Choose a time frame that makes sense for your school's policies, but don't feel like you need to keep notes from parent conferences dating back to your first year of teaching if you're entering your second decade. It's fine to recycle that stuff after a while. Okay, now I'm going to give you the most controversial recommendation, and that is artwork and sweet notes from students. Hear me out. I taught at the elementary level, which means that my students gave me handwritten and drawn items, little drawings, paintings, things that they had done almost every day. So when they would say, "I made this for you, Mrs. Watson," I would thank them profusely, and I would then display it on a small bulletin board by my desk for a couple of weeks. Then I would discreetly clean out the bulletin board to make room for more student artwork and more student notes and letters. Most of the old stuff went into a recycle bin, but I had one medium-sized plastic tub that I used to store the most precious mementos and the lovely letters that I got from students and their parents. I got that tub in my third year of teaching when I realized that my inability to throw away student artwork had become an untenable habit, and I promised myself that I would keep that one tub, and only that tub, full of student notes, and that's it forever. So when I cleaned off the bulletin board every couple of weeks and decided what to trash and what to keep, I had to ask myself, is this worthy of being read 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? How does this compare in sentimental value to the other things in the tub? And that size of the tub really forced me to be selective. I do still have that tub to this day, but everything that wasn't in it that came from students got recycled. You can even keep your collection digitally if you'd rather. Take a picture, save it in a special Dropbox or iPhone folder. But don't feel like it's heartless to throw away things from your students. It's often a necessity if you're an elementary teacher or you work with young kids. Have a place where you can display it so that they feel proud of what they did and they feel like you appreciated their effort, but you don't have to keep it forever. This spring, also consider getting rid of anything in your classroom that is broken or missing pieces. So I had a missing pieces container in my room for students to put materials in. So whenever they would find random items on the floor, like, here's a random puzzle piece or a math manipulative or, something that went inside some other container that I didn't feel like dragging out. I'm like, okay, just put it in the missing pieces tub. And so they would put that in there, and then that would be a student job, usually at the end of the quarter and definitely at the end of the school year, to go through and take all of those missing pieces and put them where they belong. If the missing pieces hadn't shown up by the end of the school year, then you probably need to get rid of the item that the piece belongs to. So this might look like decks of cards, which are missing 20 numbers, or puzzles that don't have the final corner piece, file folder games where the last two items don't have the matching pieces. These things cannot stay in your classroom. If you're not going to be able to fix it, repair it, replace it, then get rid of it. No one enjoys being surrounded by broken, incomplete items. You and your students really deserve better than that. Another thing to clean out in your classroom is books that you are not excited about your students reading. I know it is painful for any teacher to get rid of books, particularly if you've paid for them out of your own pocket. But anything that you really don't want your students reading should be gone. That book from 1984 with stereotypical references to Native Americans, recycle bin. That book where the main character is basically a bully and you hate how your students imitate the character's behavior when they read the book, recycle bin. Books that are missing pages, scribbled on, disgustingly grimy, yes, time to recycle. Now, if there are books that you no longer want in your class library, but you don't think have detrimental content, you can let students take the books home and keep them. But remember, you want your class library to be a beautiful, organized place, full of relevant books that kids are excited to read, not a dumping ground for every text that you come across since 1977. It's better to have a smaller, high-quality collection of books than a huge collection of things that no one is reading. Another thing that you can clear out in your classroom is multiple copies of papers. I used to keep at least 2 copies of the teaching resources that I really loved in case I lost one or in case the photocopier chewed it up. But that hardly ever happened. 99.9% of the time, I only needed 1 paper copy, and all those extras really add up. And you might not even need 1 paper copy if you teach older students and you're assigning and collecting most work digitally. But this can also hold true even if you're giving mostly paper assignments. For example, I used to keep anonymous examples of handwritten student work as benchmarks and exemplars for future classes. But then I just started scanning or taking photos of them and threw the hard copies away. You don't have to hold on to things that you can keep digitally, easily find online, or get from a colleague if needed. Fear is not a valid reason to keep a teaching resource. If you don't do timed math fact quizzes anymore, but you're afraid to get rid of the giant stack just in case you start doing them again, get rid of it anyway. Know that you can download them from the internet if you ever change your mind. If something is really important, it won't be gone forever because someone else in the world will have a copy of it. And finally, get rid of any personal effects that you don't enjoy. If there's something in your room that does not have a purpose, if it's not genuinely useful or it doesn't make you happy to see it every day, get rid of it. Your classroom is probably too small and prone to dust to have things that you don't love taking up space. So toss out that #1 teacher picture frame cluttering your desk and the 45 Lipton bags that you somehow accumulated even though you don't drink tea. Surround yourself only with the things that you use and love. I hope this has gotten you inspired to clean out your classroom this spring. And you might be wondering, okay, where do I start? Well, a short cleaning spree can be a great way to get some forward momentum in the battle against clutter. But if you're feeling overwhelmed by all your stuff and you don't know where you would even begin or how you find the time, simply throw things out as you come across them. So when you open up a file cabinet to grab something and you see that giant stack of outdated worksheets, grab it, recycle it, move on with your day. When you glance at your desk and you realize you have too many knickknacks, pick a few up, give them to kids to take home. And if systems for decluttering, organizing, and productivity are really your jam, I have a resource that can help this time of year. It's a process you can use at the end of the school year to deconstruct your classroom in a single day, with editable end-of-year checklists that make shutting down your classroom easy and painless. It's my end-of-year checklist and classroom closeout plan. It's available in the Truth for Teachers store and on TPT. This includes a PDF and an audio MP3 version in which I explain the process to you. It's a complete end-of-year game plan to help you decide what to do each week this spring in order to prepare for the classroom shutdown before summer. You can follow these 4 steps to deconstruct your entire classroom in just one day and purge your classroom of clutter at the end of the school year. Set yourself up now for success in the fall. So use these end-of-year checklists to plan all your closeout tasks at a manageable pace. There's a Word doc version and a Google Doc version, as well as an editable list of kid-friendly closeout tasks that you can delegate to students, which are also in a Word doc and a Google Doc. This stress-free system for end-of-year closeout works for any grade level. No more rushing around like crazy during the last week of school. This year, things can be different. Start cleaning out your room now so there's less to put away and less to manage at the end of the year. And use my classroom closeout plan to keep you on top of your tasks. You can do this. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it.